So, is Wanda a villain? You think Wanda's a villain, Richard?
As of right now, she's definitely looking like the villain. She's she's holding this town full of people hostage, controlling their minds, doing what she wants to do, depriving them of their free will, depriving them of food, you know, just so that they could trick Vision.
Yeah,
She's doing all this for her own personal gain.
exactly.
Right
And
now, they're painting her like she's some kind of dictator, like a tyrant.
yes, and I mean, essentially she is, but she's doing it for a reason that has good intentions. She wants her family, but at what point is too far? When do you take things too far?
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Wanda and her actions, it kind of reminded us of people who are anti-heroes. People who essentially do things selfishly, and they can be people who are villains, or they can be heroes at times. And right now, it looks like Wanda is a villain, but she's an Avenger. But they have me think about anti-heroes. What is an anti-hero? Anti-heroes are, like I said, someone who doesn't really display like the conventional characteristics of a hero. And usually when they do something that's good, it's out of selfish reasons, some kind of ulterior motive. But they can do good things, even though they might go about it in a way that's not really ethically or morally right. And so we want to have some fun with some anti-heroes, some characters who you can consider as a villain or a hero. And I want to know, Richard, man, who's someone that you think is an anti-hero?
Well, I've always been a fan of the heroes who really don't have superpowers, and one that I grew up like trying to follow as best as possible, like trying to watch every movie, was the Punisher.
Yes, sir.
If for those of you who don't know who the Punisher is, his name is Frank Castle. He was cop or some type of agent, and the mafia killed his family. So he pretty much went AWOL and faked his death and revenged his family. And because he's an anti-hero, because he's doing it for the sake of revenging his family. But is it really the right thing? Because some of the way that he did get back at these guys were not just murdering them. I mean, it was in pretty bloody, goriest fashions ever.
It was brutal, man.
Very, very brutal. He's one of my favorite comic book heroes that I enjoyed. I remember I was first introduced to the Punisher when I was like 10, 11 years old. They came out with a movie, The Punisher, starring Dolph Lundgren back in like the 1989 or 1990, something like that. But you know what? He didn't look like the classic Punisher. He didn't have the skull on his chest or anything like that. But he was just a good 80s action movie, which for a 10-year-old and even as an adult, I'm easily entertained. So it was it was a fun movie for me. And then 15 years later, they came out with another Punisher movie with Thomas Jane, which they kind of rolled it back because around that time they were using a lot of like CGI and things like that in movies. They kind of rolled it back with using pyrotechnics and stunt doubles and good old fashioned action movie as well, which is a fun movie, and I love this car in that movie. And then I remember watching Warzone with Ray Stevenson. That one was it wasn't the best Punisher, but it was definitely the goriest one out of all of them so far. That one had a lot of killing in it, that's for sure. But the actor himself wasn't exactly someone to remember. I couldn't even remember his name until like I looked it up a couple days ago. I was like, what was that guy's name again? But most recently, Netflix came out with their series of The Punisher. They introduced the Punisher. Yeah, right, Mike? Yeah, that was played by John Bernthal. Most people know him from The Walking Dead. And gosh, he really did a good portrayal of the Punisher. Like and probably because they did 2 seasons, so you got to see more of him acting. You get to see more of a background, his training with the military, and how it all tied into, to his vengeful motivation. But I remember when they introduced him in Daredevil, in season 2 of Daredevil, I was like, yes!
Yeah, it was so dope.
Yes!
So dope.
So really, we really got, because like he got his own show for 2 seasons, but because he was also like one of the main characters for season 2 of Daredevil, so really we got like 3 full seasons of the Punisher. I mean, maybe because technology has advanced when it comes to movies, and the writing has gotten better, and it is MCU. Probably the Netflix version is just a really, really good version of it.
So you think that was the best interpretation of
Yeah,
Punisher?
it's definitely the most entertaining one for me. It was good action. It was well written. I did like the first season better than the second season. I will admit that. Second season was kind of like, okay, but the first season was really good.
I gotta admit that I did not see all of the Punisher Netflix version. I saw the first episode of the first season. I know of Punisher. That first episode was amazing, and then I don't know, life happened, and I couldn't finish it. But it looked like it was going to be really good, and I didn't get a chance to follow up with it.
Yeah, well, don't watch it with the little one running around, because there's a lot of violence.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, Punisher, good choice. Mike Diaz, who's your anti-hero that you picked?
I picked Wolverine as my anti-hero.
Nice.
James Howlett. James Howlett as his given name is, but everybody knows him as Logan or Wolverine. I picked him because even though everybody sees him, especially with the whole Hugh Jackman thing, he's more of, a hero, but really he's anti-hero because he's often used as a blunt weapon without caring of how he does things. You hinted at times getting to the greater good, but you doing unconventional things of what heroes aren't really meant to do, like killing people. Because you think of like heroes like Superman doesn't kill anybody, Batman doesn't kill anybody. Like you go through these lists of heroes, even though they're DC, even Marvel heroes, you're like, okay, not a lot of killing happens because that's morally wrong. Like to tell you don't kill anybody. But one of the things that really stands out to me is a specific comic. It was Ultimate X-Men issue 41. It came out in 2004, I believe. It was a comic book where it kind of distinctly shows this child or this kid that wakes up, right? He wakes up, like he normally does. I think he's 16. He's just going through puberty, and he goes downstairs. He realizes his mom's not home. He has to get to school, and then he notices his mom's clothes on the floor. He doesn't know what's really going on. He starts walking to school. He doesn't see anybody anywhere close by, and then he finally gets to school. And then when he's interacting with kids and he's finally like, okay, I'm not going nuts, there are actually people here, everybody starts dying around him, like painfully dying. They're like burning up, dissolving in front of him, and he has no idea what's going on. He gets so scared, he runs and hides in a cave. Then it cuts to Wolverine showing up to the cave, and the kid is telling him to stay away because he thinks that he's the one that's killing people. But Wolverine tells him, sit down, you can't kill me, I have healing factors, I'm a mutant. The kid realizes who it is, And then Wolverine just tells him, you are the reason why people are dying. You're a mutant. You just went through puberty, and your mutant power is that you secrete these poisonous, toxic gases that literally disintegrates organic tissue.
Wow.
So yes, he murdered everybody in the town. This kid, out of nowhere, he woke up, murdered everybody. I think they said like 265 people in that town he murdered.
Wow.
The kid crying, doesn't know what he says, that he can't no longer touch anybody, he can't be around anybody. All this is just seeping to happen. And then Wolverine just tells him, you know what, nobody's gonna know yet you did it. And the kid's asking, what do you mean? He says, well, if the world finds out that a mutant, even if it's a accident or it's on purpose, did this to 265 people, the mutant society would be completely overrun by the government. Gathered up, enslaved, all this stuff. And Professor Xavier sent Wolverine there for one mission and one mission only, to kill this kid.
Wow. Yeah.
Because for the greater good of the mutant community, this cannot be found out that some kid murdered all these people because he was just a mutant.
Wow.
The kid cries, I didn't get a chance to even be with my girlfriend. Wolverine gives him a beer so he can drink a beer. And he tells the kid, just drink it, enjoy your life as you're doing it now. And the kid just tells him, just do it, because he knows why he's there. And then it just cuts to Wolverine coming out of the cave by himself.
Wow.
So, I mean, things like that. The greater good, he's doing stuff for the greater good in an unconventional way, and murdering somebody.
Wow.
He was used as a blunt weapon by Professor Xavier. I know this kind of paints Professor Xavier not as a great person, but if you really think about it, he's thinking about the greater good for the greater good of the society of mutants.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense that he would send Wolverine because, Wolverine is essentially an animal. So he doesn't really have, he has emotions, but still, he can kind of disconnect himself from the human side of himself. And he can do something like kill a kid for the greater good. That's crazy. And that's horrible. But again, that
he's a hero.
I say he's a hero. He saved the world, but he did it in a way that's maybe ethically, morally kind of, I don't know if I can do that,
Yeah.
So for my choice, I decided to go with Venom. I went with Venom. And I didn't know too much about Venom because I gotta admit, I didn't see the movie Venom with Tom Hardy.
You didn't miss much.
But I've been meaning to see it. I wanted to watch it. It's actually next on my list to watch. But the character Venom has always kind of, interested me or, captivated me because he looks so cool, that alien crazy looking thing. But that's what he is. Venom is essentially an alien that is just like this fluid-like substance, but he can only survive by, bonding with the host. And so at first, he actually started off as like a replacement suit for Spider-Man. He was supposed to be, this black and white suit for Spider-Man. Spider-Man uses him to, do things with it. But Spider-Man kind of saw like the villainous characteristics of him, of that alien substance, and so he detached himself from that suit, and then that suit kind of had a grudge against Spider-Man, and so he decided to go and bond himself to another host. And one of the hosts that he bonded himself to was Eddie Brock, and that's actually who Tom Hardy plays in the movie of Venom. So Eddie Brock, he gets attached to this alien substance, and he starts going by the name of Venom. And so that's when Venom is created and first starts off. And since Spider-Man didn't want to be his host, he kind of has, again, this grudge against Spider-Man. So he, at first, is the villain of Spider-Man. He's like his arch nemesis, and they always bump heads. They go at each other, and Venom is trying to kill Spider-Man. But eventually, Spider-Man gets him, puts him in prison. And, while he's in prison, before he breaks out of prison, he actually kind of leaves like a spawn or like a little piece of himself behind for his prison mate. So that prison mate attaches to that symbiote, and that prison mate becomes Carnage. And so Carnage is just straight up evil. So symbiotes, they kind of take on the traits of who they attach to. And so he took on that traits of that prison mate, and he was just evil and just wants to kill any and everybody for just no reason. And so Venom is out, but then Carnage is out too, and he starts wreaking havoc across New York City. And Spider-Man, you know, he wants to kill or get rid of Carnage, but he needs help. So he decides to team up with Venom, and Venom actually, you know, teams up with Spider-Man, and they kill or they go after Carnage. Because deep down, Venom has this thing for people who are innocent. He actually wants to protect people who are innocent. He actually sometimes becomes like a vigilante. You know, he goes after people who do bad things to the innocent. And so he has that deep down inside of him, but he still hates Spider-Man. But, you know, for him to do something good, he actually will be willing to team up with Spider-Man and go after Carnage and, you know, go on missions with Spider-Man to do what's best for society. So that kind of makes him an anti-hero. Even though he hates Spider-Man, even though he does things that, you know, aren't really morally correct or good, but he's willing to do what it takes to actually protect people and then protect the innocents. So I picked Venom because, yeah, he's an anti-hero. That was pretty fun. But you know what? Our person who actually is our recipient for our Real Life Hero Award, he actually fits this category of an anti-hero because as I was talking to him, letting him know that, you know, I want to honor him on the show, he was like, you know what, CJ, I'm not actually a hero, man. Don't call me that. I don't look at myself as a hero. I'm just doing what, you know, God's work. I'm just doing what God has called me to do, which is help people who are, you know, in the medical field, who are going through bad times. He wants to be that person that can help people, and just because he knows it's the right thing to do. And that anti-hero, that person who's on the front lines, his name is Josh Carnes. Josh Carnes is a nurse who has worked at a Bakersfield hospital for about 6.5 years now. One reason why he became a nurse is because of his brother. His brother was born with a congenital heart defect and has had 3 open heart surgeries in his lifetime. So he grew up in hospitals and had seen good and bad care. The second reason is he loves helping and serving people. So his love for the medical field and love for serving others led him to nursing. And he is now back in school studying to become a nurse practitioner. So Josh is a good guy, a good friend, a man who loves God, and he just wants to be a light in this world. So he'll be receiving a Royal Zealous care package, which consists of a Royal Zealous drawstring bag, a ID badge with a comic hero on it, and a gift card. Even though you say he's not a hero, you're a hero, man. When we see what you're doing, you're out there on the front lines, helping people every day, working hard. You are a hero in our book. So thank you for what you're doing. Continue to inspire people. Continue to do what you do, man. So that concludes another episode of Superhero Sundays. Tune in next week where we get into following WandaVision in her series. So until then, God bless and have a good night. If you like what you saw, you can head over to royalzealous.com. You can scroll down and see a donation section. Again, we truly appreciate any and everything. Even if it's just a like, a thumbs up, or a subscription to our YouTube channel, we really, really appreciate it. Thank you for all your help, and thank you for your support.